The subpoena against Taylor Swift has been dropped by Justin Baldoni's team. This was the plan all along. It's a very smart way of making this information public, but I'm sure that they made a deal already before this whole process started.
Blake Lively is spiraling into a full-scale public courtroom breakdown after her former best friend Taylor Swift quietly dropped a brutal truth bomb that turned everything upside down.
That's all Justin Baldoni's team needed from Taylor Swift.
Did you seriously try to blackmail your own best friend using decade-old texts and think she'd stay silent? That's pure delusion. Thinking someone like Taylor Swift could be manipulated? Laughable. And the fact that she dropped her subpoena after secretly shaking hands with Friedman says it all.
It says here that this source is saying that Taylor Swift, the godmother of Lively's 3 daughters, is said to be relieved their decade-long bond is now over. Right now, if Taylor had one wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
Behind closed doors, what the world believed to be a sisterhood was in reality filled with manipulation and veiled threats. According to insiders, Blake wasn't just pleading for support, she was demanding it.
When Taylor looks back at their friendship, she realizes it wasn't worth all the stress Blake put her through. She can now see all the red flags that could have been a warning to her.
And the price of saying no? The threat of exposing 10 years' worth of personal messages. Every word saved and ready to be weaponized if Taylor didn't comply. This wasn't just betrayal. It was emotional blackmail, dressed up as a plea for loyalty.
Right now, if Taylor had one wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
Taylor was trapped between 2 impossible options. Either surrender to Blake's threats and publicly support her, risking her own reputation, or refuse and face leaked texts that tabloids could twist into scandal. It wasn't a fair fight.
Someone from Taylor Swift's team or someone close to Taylor Swift contacted Brian Friedman back in February 14 to be exact. He received a phone call from someone saying to him that Taylor Swift had been pressured by Blake Lively to delete evidence, to delete text messages between her and Blake Lively.
So Taylor didn't move directly. She let her father, Scott Swift, take action. While Blake plotted legal pressure and PR manipulation, Scott quietly called Justin Baldoni's legal team. And just like that, the power dynamic flipped.
And she was pressured to give a public statement or to support Blake Lively in public. And if she didn't, Blake would leak 10 years of their private text messages together. As I said earlier today, this didn't give Taylor Swift much of an option, Either she would support Blake Lively in public, which could be like PR suicide for her.
It was Scott Swift, not Taylor, who alerted Brian Friedman to the extortion attempt, on Valentine's Day no less. That phone call would redefine the entire legal battle in this celebrity saga.
If he didn't support her, Blake Lively would release all these text messages, which could also affect Taylor Swift's career, like dramatically. I mean, there could be stuff in there, of course, that she doesn't want to get out there.
Scott laid it out clearly. Blake had boxed Taylor into a legal trap, using blackmail to force a public show of support. No rants, no Instagram apologies. Scott just made sure the truth reached the right ears.
Who wants their private text messages to be public? So what I think happened here, obviously, is that Taylor Swift's team agreed with Brian Friedman that he would subpoena Taylor Swift. They would file for it to get dismissed or for the subpoena to be tossed, whatever the legal term for that is.
With that single strategic move, Taylor was protected, both legally and publicly. She hadn't broken any silence, and her name was nowhere near the leaked statement.
And then he would send a letter to the judge explaining what had happened and why he needed that subpoena. And in that letter, all these things that we just learned about last week would become public. It's a very smart way of making this information public. And then I think Blake Lively's team agreed to make it a sworn statement.
But the contents, the manipulation, the threats, the emotional pressure were now in the hands of a legal team ready to strike. Blake had lost control of the narrative, and Taylor hadn't spoken a single word.
And Brian Friedman made it a sworn statement. And when that happened, they didn't really need the subpoena anymore. And I think that's when they agreed that Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni's team would drop the subpoena against Taylor Swift.
What made this twist so devastating was its subtlety. Taylor never needed to take the stand or post cryptic tweets. Her father initiated the truth, and by the time Brian Friedman submitted his sworn statement, it was already over.
Subpoena against Taylor Swift has been dropped by Justin Baldoni's team.
The dropped subpoena wasn't a surrender, it was the bite of a flawlessly set trap. At face value, it seemed like Taylor Swift had narrowly escaped trouble when Justin Baldoni's team pulled back the subpoena. But anyone fluent in legal chess knew this wasn't a dodge. It was a strategic ambush.
That's when they agreed that Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni's team would drop the subpoena against Taylor Swift. Because then all that information about what she did to Taylor Swift and how she threatened her and tried to extort her, all this information would become public.
In truth, insiders confirm that Taylor's team discreetly worked with Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, to issue that subpoena, fully aware it would eventually be thrown out. Why? Because the aim was never to place Taylor on the stand. The true objective was to spotlight Blake Lively's alleged extortion, all under the protection of legal procedure, without Taylor uttering a single word in court.
But I'm sure that they made a deal already before this whole process started.
Here's how it unfolded. Taylor's team realized a PR battle with Blake's threats would only turn into a public circus, something Taylor had carefully avoided for years. So they constructed a legal detour. They let the subpoena go public, drawing media attention. Then, as planned, Taylor's lawyers moved to dismiss it, labeling it unnecessary. It wasn't a flop. It was a carefully laid trap.
I wish I'd never met Blake. New humiliation for Lively as singer outs the glaring red flag she missed during their 10 years friendship.
While media outlets miscast the withdrawn subpoena as a victory for Blake, implying she dodged legal heat, Brian Friedman submitted a sworn declaration to the court. That document laid it all bare. Blake's threats, her push for Taylor's, public loyalty, and the vow to leak a decade's worth of texts if Taylor didn't comply. It all emerged, without Taylor saying a single word.
Here that this source is saying that Taylor Swift, the godmother of Lively's 3 daughters, is said to be relieved their decade-long bond is now over.
What made the strategy so ruthless and genius? Taylor didn't have to act. Her attorney turned the courtroom into her stage. Everything that needed saying came through a sworn affidavit, not a press release.
When Taylor looks back at their friendship, she realized that it wasn't worth all the stress Blake put her through. She can now see all the red flags that could have been a warning to her.
And while Blake's team was busy portraying Taylor as a scared celebrity evading subpoenas, they failed to notice the real damage had already landed. The public didn't need Taylor's courtroom speech. They had something more powerful, a verified court-filed declaration under oath, revealing the entire alleged blackmail operation.
And she says, or the person says, Taylor had to tone Blake down time and time again because she always wanted to be the leader of the pack. Taylor's relieved the relationship is over. She put up with Blake's antics for too long because she's a loyal friend.
This is what the media missed. They were too wrapped up in splashy headlines. Taylor's subpoena dropped to see what was quietly added into the official legal record. Because the real explosive detail wasn't the subpoena. It was what was embedded in the court documents, beyond PR spin's reach. Once that statement was docketed, Blake Lively's image shifted overnight, from A-list actress to legal risk.
It is understood that a dutiful Kelsey is following suit in cutting off Lively and Reynolds.
The move was so sleek and sharp. Even seasoned celebrity lawyers called it one of the most surgically effective tactics they'd seen in a major dispute. Taylor didn't strike back. She didn't rage or tour exposés. She used the law, and it succeeded more thoroughly than any public spectacle could have.
This is, I think, one of the reasons that a lot of celebrities turns into monsters.
But it didn't stop there. Just as the legal blow landed, Taylor's personal emotions started leaking into media. The Daily Mail published an exclusive, quoting a source close to Taylor. The message? Direct and unfiltered. I wish I'd never met Blake. No metaphors, no poetic lines, just raw regret. One line carried the weight of a decade-long friendship shattered by betrayal.
Because not a lot of people would know that she had received a text from Blake Lively demanding her to delete conversations between them, text messages between them, which would be really deleting evidence.
Insiders reveal Taylor now regrets the entire 10-year bond, feeling she was exploited from the beginning. For years, Blake had seemed like a steady confidant, away from the chaos of Hollywood. But behind closed doors, she allegedly sought to dominate the friendship, positioning herself as its center, always hungry for the spotlight. Those near Taylor now say she constantly had to tone Blake down, mask her intense behavior, clean up her PR stunts, and resolve her conflicts. And for what? In the end, Blake tried to use Taylor's name as a legal shield. The manipulation wasn't new. It had finally crossed the final line.
A lot of people would know that Blake Lively's attorney had been contacted by Blake Lively's attorney demanding her to support her publicly. If not, Blake Lively would leak 10 years of private text messages from Taylor Swift.
The controversy around It Ends With Us was the final straw. Taylor, sources say, stayed silent for weeks, watching Blake's team try to deflect blame onto Justin Baldoni while secretly urging Taylor to speak out. Her refusal wasn't just resistance, it was clarity. She had reached her limit. No more silence, no more cover-ups. When someone exposes who they truly are in a courtroom, you believe them.
I have to blame someone for this, and that's why she sued Justin Baldoni, because she could not handle the fact that people didn't like her.
Even Taylor's closest confidants are now speaking up, saying the warning signs were always visible. The dominance, the disguised jabs, the performative support that vanished under pressure. Yet Taylor, loyal to a fault, kept giving Blake the benefit of the doubt. Until the day Blake tried turning that loyalty into her legal defense, and everything changed.
So it's a slippery slope right now, and I'm enjoying watching it from the sideline.
This wasn't merely a broken friendship. It was a deliberate torching. And while Blake Lively thought she could outmaneuver Taylor Swift in the arena of public perception, she missed one crucial detail. Taylor doesn't make noise. She makes smart moves, calculated, sharp, and irreversible.